Hello and greetings from Vienna. I've been asked to say a few words to the members of the conference on Christian persecution or persecution of Christians, with a special emphasis on persecution of Christians in the Ukraine. And I've been on a conference before in Vienna. We had the pleasure to meet Dragana Trifkovic and Patrick Poppel, who is a long-lasting friend of mine. They did a similar conference on a similar topic in Vienna, and I spoke back then. And I want to say a few words to you now from afar. I'm not an expert on the situation in Ukraine, but Dragana Drivkovic gave a very insightful talk on what's happening in Ukraine, and many other people also chimed in with their views on what's happening in Ukraine. And I was personally actually shocked because I learned many new things which haven't been in the history of Europe or in the history of let's call it the civilized world for many years, that monks and priests who have been running monasteries, churches for a long period of time have been removed from the churches, their relics taken, and their faithful persecuted. We had this for a few times in the history of Europe, of course, but in very few instances, history later looked at these events in a positive manner. People who took churches and redefined them, took them away from the faithful. They were never looked upon in a positive manner. If you look at the Irish history, for example, and what Cromwell did to the Catholics, nobody is saying that Cromwell is such a great person in history. And I think that what's happening now with the members of the Moscow Patriarchate in Ukraine, it will be looked upon probably in a similar fashion later on. The problem is, from a canonical standpoint, speaking from the standpoint of canon law, that a church or a monastery is not only associated with its church and its patriarchate, it's also associated with the head of the church, the pastor, the abbot, who is at the helm of the faithful, at the top of his church community, and who has certain laws and rules and rights which come to him from tradition being passed down. This is also the thought of apostolic succession, which is present not only in the Catholic Church but also in the Orthodox churches. If this apostolic succession is interrupted, and if someone who is seen as a rightful head of a church is removed or is harassed, then this fathers all kinds of problems for the people involved in this situation. This should not be taken lightly, because as you're treating these people, so you might be treated in another conflict. It always has been good tradition that in a situation of war, that the churches are not to be involved in that. So when Henry V, for example, invaded France, the French churches, the French priests, were not to be bothered. There's a scene in the play by Shakespeare, Henry V, where the soldiers steal from a church and they remove the golden chalices and they remove the relics and so on. These people are hanged by Henry V. This wasn't only done in the sense of literature, in the sense of fantasy. No, this was, even back in the Middle Ages, the rule and the law that a church run in a certain manner was not to be disturbed. The only case when this was probable or this happened was when the churches were aligned in a political conflict, but were entirely different, like, for example, Protestant churches and Catholic churches. But even then, you tried not to do this, but of course this happened. But the thing is that the Ukrainian Orthodox Church and the Russian Orthodox Church are much more aligned closely theologically speaking. They are aligned as closely theologically speaking as the Society of St. Pius X, for example, within the Catholic Church is aligned with the mainland Catholic Church. There is talk between those two groups, and they don't like each other very much. But there is no violence from one group against the other, especially if they are so close in theological terms. The next problem is, since they are aligned so closely, if you have a relic, for example, where the saint that is revered in that relic is well known for being a fighter in Russian history for Russia, do you remove that relic? Do you have that saint still in your catalog of saints? The disruption of tradition, the disruption of history, will be a topic that will be very hard to come by. And the patriarchate, the Greek patriarchate that involved itself in this conflict by kind of giving credence to the Ukrainian church, I'm not sure that was a good decision to do that, because it will create all kinds of problems for them. The last thing I want to remark, and I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but the last thing I want to remark is that I have the fear, and I say this as a Catholic, that the strong alignment of the new formed Ukrainian church with Ukraine, and the story that the West wants to tell you, that Ukraine stands for progress and for modernism and for openness to society, and Russia stands for backwardness and traditionalism and these things. This might create problems within the Orthodox Church in the future, which we have already seen in the Catholic Church. So you can look at myself like a prophet from the future, basically telling you, look at what happened in the Catholic Church for the last 20, 30 years. We've been modernized. Our teachings have been diluted. We had forcibly the introduction of many topics the faithful are not even that interested in, like the topic of transgenderism within the church. There was a big meeting now of the German Council of Bishops on that, and the faithful were mostly either appalled or they were disinterested in this topic. This is not a normal topic for a church. And the problem I see in the future for the Ukrainian Orthodox Church and even the Greek Orthodox Church is, if they align themselves too closely with Europe, if they align themselves too closely with the West, with the United States, they might go the way of the Catholic Church, at least in Europe. The United States Catholic Church is still a bit less modernist because they don't rely on taxes, so they need donations, and donations are only given by the faithful if they behave, in a sense. But still, you have this turn towards modernism, and I fear that the Ukrainian Orthodox Church and the Greek Orthodox Church will maybe suffer from being forcibly turned towards a modernism that wouldn't even work within the setting of an Orthodox Church, because it has a different image, it has a different spirituality. And I think that the danger for the faithful, that many of the faithful who are now celebrating, you're saying, yes, we are working for Ukraine more, and we are against Russia, whatever, be careful what you wish for. And I tell you this as a Catholic, if you align too closely with Western policies, you might be forced to do things and to see things that you might not like in the future. That was it from me. God bless. I hope you have a great talk. I hope to read all your probably much better worked out opinions. And good night from Vienna. Take care. Bye-bye.